Rolling.
5, 6, 7, 8. Welcome to another episode with questions and answers, I guess.
Question and answer, a little mini-sode to fill you guys in. We've got a lot of questions as usual. And I suppose let's get through it. Once again, you're listening to the Handstandcast with Emmet Lewis and Mikael Christiansen, supported by Handstand Factory. And we're just going to do a little short episode to answer your questions. Just bear in mind, if you do have some questions, you can always hit us up on social media at Emmet Lewis, at Handstand Factory, at Mikael Balancing, or you can go to the website handstandfactory.com and use the contact form there. Up to you. Send it in. As we say, good questions, we'll read them out. Bad questions, we'll read them out with your name attached.
Dun, dun, dun. So
you will get your question answered regardless. And that's just a bit of a joke anyway. Please don't. There is no bad questions. There's some terrible questions, but there's no bad questions. So, first question. It's kind of a two-parter, actually. I can only relate to one part of it. But what is the importance of Mario ROM hacks and their coffee spills? What's their relationship to handstand skills?
I guess they kind of target me there somehow. So to explain to you guys who don't know what Mario ROM hacks are, because that's the most important thing. It's basically a bunch of people that have created a custom software that they create Super Mario World games in it, and it is absolutely glorious.
It's the easiest way to describe it is Mario fan fiction.
Yeah, basically.
People make like their ideal levels for it. It's kind of...
It's not super duper, or like not all of them are difficult,
but loads of them are really good.
Yeah, loads of them are great.
Like even just if you're used to a normal vanilla game, like Jump, like is a spiritual successor to it in terms of like, okay, they haven't, that's really good. So there's a category ones we really like called Kaizo, which
it's super precise platforming, and it's basically built up so that it's just ridiculously hard, and you need like an enormous amount of practice to kind of get through these levels. And how does it relate to handstand? Well, it requires even more patience. So I dare one of you motherfuckers to try to play through those games. They are absolutely glorious, but it's hard as balls, and it's just a great challenge. And more, I would say, like, even more frustrating than handstands almost.
Yeah, I think it's a good contrast, because like, let's face it, handstand training is frustrating a lot of the time. And it just requires a stupid amount of repetition and failure. It's like most of your handstands, like you fall out of a handstand more than you will ever hold a handstand. Let's be honest here. Whereas with ROM hacks, it's basically very directly. I don't know, what I really like about them is like, I used to think I was good at video games. I'm pretty good at video games. I'm pretty good at Guitar Hero, stuff like this. But the ROM hacks, they punish you for every misinput of a button. And you might be putting buttons like for 6 frames. 3 frames, that kind of thing. And it's just like, if you die, it's because you fucked up. There's no debate about it. It's not like, oh, I mistimed. It's like you literally just fucked up, and that's why you die.
And you repeat and you repeat and you repeat and you repeat, and it is glorious.
And then you go like, I don't know,
I'm
3 jumps forward.
Yeah, I'm basically like still playing like the easier ones, and like they are soul crushing. They just basically put you straight in your place where you belong. And that is in the garbage can.
I suppose we should link put a shout out to Super Mario World Central.
Yeah, Super Mario World Central. That's where you get the ROM hacks. You can kind of like download the files where you essentially you take the ROM files, which then are kind of the actual game, and you modify them with the files that you find on there, and then like that basically turns it into whatever then hack version of the game that you're trying to play. And it is great. So check that out.
Check them out. It's definitely
And I guess coffee spills, that's just because I suck. It is what it is. I'm really fucking clumsy. I had a lot of people ask me like, oh, no, are you faking your coffee spills? Who the fuck fakes coffee spills to impress people on the internet? Or that's the thing even. You're not even impressing. You're just making a fucking fool out of yourself. Yes, lol, I spill coffee. It's the thing that happens. And I'm just a clumsy motherfucker. Like, ask my friends and you will know.
It's kind of funny watching Mikael, actually, because if you look at Mikael, he's physically quite a machine on his hands, and I've known him quite a long time, and I'm still always quite impressed at some of the stuff he can get up to, just not even the hand balance, just the other stuff. Just other stuff is like, oh, I'll just go do 1-arm back levers for a bit of fun. And then he does his origami, which is incredibly intensely fiddly and very precise, very good if you've ever seen his models. So he's put all, it's like kind of like a character builder, put all his stats and physical attribute and precision but left none of that for that kind of like activities of daily coffee drinking. It's that. Where it's
Yeah,
like,
but it's the thing. Like, I just have a tendency to, I get distracted by things. So I'll be doing something, and like there was this one I was working on this show, and I was sitting and doing some computer work, and I put my coffee cup on a pillow, and I look at it, it's like, this is not gonna go well, because like the pillow is very wobbly. So I just take the coffee and I put it on the ground just in front of my feet. I write a few sentences, I move my foot, and I just kick it straight down. Like,
Yeah.
but this is just it's just consistently happens.
But this
it's
is,
kind of like uncanny almost.
but it's not even like, you know, the perception thing is like out of sight and you kind of kick it over. It's the French press is like your arch nemesis.
Or
like,
AeroPress is actually worse.
AeroPress,
Fuck
yeah.
that thing.
It's like, it's not even like you have time to get distracted there. You just explode them.
Yeah,
So-
but I don't know. I've had my share of mistakes.
I have the rule when Mikael's in my house, he's not allowed to operate the French press.
Which is really great because Emmet just makes coffee for me all the time.
And you nearly wrecked all the audio equipment this morning with your coffee spill.
No, but I didn't spill any. I just
You
yeah. When
fucking
you
wrecked the floor.
I basically moved it through a kind of questionable part of like close to the microphone. But since I'm extremely skilled at like hand-eye coordination, I just mastered it instantly.
Yeah, so what's the relation to handstand skills? It's like, if you want to get good at handstands, don't put any stats into putting coffee in face.
No, exactly. And like you'll see it that like the worse you get at hand-eye coordination, like that is kind of like the sign of you ascending the ladder of handstands with glory.
Yeah,
the
so
two.
go on the next question. Do you want to read this one?
So yeah, next, will there be further materials on handstand will there be further materials on handstand released after the push and press series? And we can say yes.
There will. I'm not sure we want to give the top secret topics because we'll have someone ripping off our names and trying to release 1 week before us. So there will be more courses. We have I think 7 more courses planned. So
Yeah, something around that.
a lot of stuff covering sort of all levels of hand balance and much more depth and a range of kind of everything. We're also open to suggestions. If you think we're missing something and you'd really like a course on that, let us know and we'll have enough people we can make a course on it if we haven't come up with it ourselves.
Yeah. Next, are you recording a film Meister Michael style or Meister
style.
Michael Ninja style with delayed sound effects? I am sad to tell you no, because that's the thing. All of like the garbage movies that I watch, or because there are
we
loads.
could do it though. I think
Yeah,
we
but
could,
the problem is, it's just like Sharknado and all these like modern bad movies. They're like, lol, look at us, roll eyes, irony. How funny is it? We did
well, we
something
could
bad.
just set
haha.
out to make a good movie like Fatal Deviation and just end
Yeah.
up with something terrible instead.
Yeah, but like the thing is, you need to be devoid of self-reflection when you make this. You need to like thoroughly believe that you're going to make something glorious. So, by the way, yeah, Fatal Deviation is actually a Irish version, like Irish movie.
It's an Irish martial arts movie that was filmed in the 90s. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah,
And it was
full movies there.
filmed basically on a old school VHS camera with the person who doing it just sneaking the shots in on various locations. They weren't allowed. The shot of film centers were kicked out.
Yeah, like that scene in the shopping center, they
Yeah.
had to like re-enter several times.
Yeah,
to
they got
finish it,
kicked
I
out
think.
over a couple of weeks to do that. And,
Glorious.
what else? Yeah, the castle scene. They broke into the castle at night, and
Oh, they did that too.
yeah. So it's if you want.
Yeah, but like I would say, if you want to watch garbage movies, watch Fatal Deviation, watch Ninja Terminator. That's kind of, it's pretty rough, but it's like it's doable for most mortals. Birdemic, Shock and Terror, and then like if you're able to deal reasonably well with that, like you can dig more into Godfrey Ho's Mad World. That is rough. It's not fun anymore, but you can try. So
not
like,
fun anymore,
Ninja Terminator is a good start there, but yeah, things get increasingly hard the deeper you go. Yeah. So
Okay, next one. Do you think it's possible to build middle splits mobility and do leg workout in the same day? Do I give a long answer or short answer? Short answer, yes. Long answer, it's basically you have to look at your training volume on your leg day, and you might have to accept that you have to reduce the number of accessory exercises in your program to count for the middle splits. This depends on how you're training your middle splits as well. If you're training in a pure passive manner, then you don't really need to do anything. If you're training the way I generally advise, working on the strength elements of either the hip flexion strength, lifting the legs into it, the glute strength, or the transverse plane abduction, or training isometrics in the kind of middle split position. These are strength moves at the end of the day. These are strength, they're heavy. You're working time on the tension zones that are equivalent to strength training. So something has to give. So generally what I would advise people when you're starting out in this is just knock a set off your accessory exercises. So for example, if you're doing a classic leg day, you're doing one bilateral strength movement, either squat or deadlift, something on one leg, either split squat or single leg deadlift, some hip extension, pure hip extension, and something else, some leg curls, just to balance it out. You might do, say, 5 sets of 3 to 5 on your main movement. So you always want to put like all your stats into the main movement, get that really on. So that's going to give you the biggest training effect. Then if you're planning to do, say, 3 to 4 accessory sets, what you would do would actually reduce them all by 1 and do 2 sets of accessories, but then the added volume will be made up. You still have the same total number of sets, but the strength will be covered in the middle split training. Hope that helps. Other than that, it's like you can also just do your mid split training on another day of the week. Treat it as a second leg day, third leg day. But you do have to see how you react to training as well. It's like if you get a lot of really bad DOMs from all the training, it's better to group it. If you don't get super bad DOMs, then you spread it out over the week. There's no hard and fast way. I don't think for some people the middle split training will be more effective after the leg training. For other people like myself, I do my leg training. There's no point in me doing any sort of stretching training, or not anymore at the moment, but there's no point doing it then because I just don't get the same training response I want, so I have it on a separate day. So, play with all these things and find what works for you. Is that idea of like become an expert in yourself.
Cool. So next one, what do you need to strengthen and work on to improve lift from a crow stand to a handstand? Handstand push-up.
Yeah.
Mostly. So there are a couple of ways to do it. You have one way where you
don't mind me just smacking my microphone.
So you go into a crow stand and then you straighten your arms while your knees are resting on your arms, and then you kind of go up. That turns more into a press to handstand type of strength, since you're still connected with the knees and the arms as you straighten the arms. Usually I see that happening more when people are doing the crow stand variation where the knees are rather high up towards the armpit.
I think that one's called a crane stand.
Might be. Yeah, I
maybe,
don't really
maybe
know
someone
the
in yoga
difference.
will give us some comments on that.
Yeah,
but,
might be. But like how I look at a crow to handstand is essentially your knees are resting like on your elbows, kind of a little bit up above. Your arms are bent. Then you simply, the first thing that happens is that you keep leaning the weight slightly forwards, and then you take the weight fully kind of in the front of the delts, and then you lift the knees off of the arms, and from there you do a handstand push-up. So what I usually would advise is to be able to at least to be able to do a negative handstand push-up is just a good idea to be able to do, and mainly specifically being able to kind of hold yourself in the bottom of a handstand push-up, and this should be done on the floor, because you don't want to be like, there's a very significant difference between kind of the shoulder stand thing that people do on parallel bars and a handstand push-up position, because you really need to have the kind of protract and externally rotated arms as you do it here. And if you do it on the floor, you will have instant kind of feedback on whether you're doing it, because if you're not keeping that like protracted position, you will literally fall through it and just need to put your feet on the floor. But you want to really be able to hold that point in kind of the bottom of a handstand push-up.
Yeah, I think there's a category of people who will also be approaching this where they haven't actually trained a lot of overhead strength, generally from yoga. That's not saying anything's bad there. But what you would see, and what I'd advise this thing, because people, it's kind of like for handstand artists, they'd be like going, oh, I need my press, or people really want the thing. Whereas other people are like, this is the end boss, and for some of them. And one way to train it is to just start bending the arm on the crow and start pushing. So you're progressively, like the head is going down forward slightly, and that's getting you into this like half handstand push-up. You're like, the goal is to get like, if you imagine in a crow stand, our hip angle, our spine angle is about 45 degrees, and we want to get that almost vertical. So using that as your kind of measure of progress, you might want to take video and look inside, like, am I getting my spine closer to this vertical handstand alignment? Then you'll find there's a moment when you begin to feel that the knees will become lighter on the elbows. So you're kind of doing like a bent arm tuck handstand. So that's quite nice just to get used to that. But then the other thing which you can do, it's nice to play around. I think it's one of those things, like for tumbling, people who tumble, it's good to get used to these, is kicking the legs up and then following through with the arms. So it's like the handstand push-up equivalent of a push press. So you're using the legs to generate some of the tempo, the dynamic movement, and then following through with the arms. Yeah. That one's quite it's an interesting one because it's if you can get into the start position and get the timing right, it's incredibly easy. Like
it's a little bit like doing it from headstand almost.
Yeah, it's the same motion headstand. It's just the head's not touching the floor. And the other one is just on that one is like going from crow to headstand and back again will build some of the strength as well.
Yeah,
that's
great.
I
think like in general being able to just build the comfort around it, and because the crow stand is a very low, like it doesn't require a lot of strength nor balance, while the point where your knees come off your elbows, it suddenly just drastically increases. Like, because the handstand doesn't require so much strength. A little bit bent handstand doesn't either. But like when you go from the crow stand and you take the knees off, you go immediately into the absolute hardest part of the entire movement.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like there's a big gap there for most people. So I think that it is good to just like if you learn to do a negative solid handstand push-up with reasonable technique, so that you have very good control in the bottom there, you get an isometric hold in the bottom. You might be assisting yourself by working with leg kick as well, to kind of understand the ascending movement. I think those are kind of like staple things that you will be well off doing if you want to learn this motion, rather than just going into crow stand trying to lift the handstand. It will likely fail because you won't actually be getting much training effect out of just trying to do the movement.
Yeah. What do you think? Time for one short question?
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up on that. Let me see what question is here. Okay, here we go. Just for those people who tuned in and listened all the way to the end, how can I benefit from any discounts for one of the programs you are selling? Well, for the mini-sode listeners and people who get to the end, we have a special discount, 15%, and the code is minisode15 all the way, and you can claim that on handstandfactory.com on all our programs. Thank you for listening to us ramble, I suppose. And
hopefully...
So yeah, hopefully listen to the main podcast. Once again, if you have questions for our minisodes or questions for us, either find us on handstandfactory.com on the contact form with podcast questions as a title. Send your questions through, even just asking us on social media as well. You can find me at Emmet Lewis on Instagram, or basically everywhere else. You can find Mikael at Mikael Balancing, and you can find us on the main account at Handstand Factory, Handstand Factory. Other than that, thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you soon.
Cheers.